That's
let,
actually that's from the Skagit, not from Japan. Long time
um, okay, how did everyone find the assignment?
It was fun.
I'm happier
challenging.
now. It
Very
was interesting.
challenging.
It
Hold
was
on,
educational.
I was going to say, let's go one at a time. Suzette first, so we're not all talking over each
I
other.
thought it was educational. I felt like I learned a lot from it. Um, I found it frustrating last week, but I felt like I sort of figured it out, even though I think my post-production efforts need some work. But
Susie, how did you find it?
Very challenging. As you know, I sent you my like panic. I can't figure this out. Then I kind of got it, I think. So hopefully I sent it in the right size. Did I?
Yeah, we'll take a look at everyone's.
Okay.
What about Mary and Joanne? How did you find it?
Well, I live in a very small place, so I X'd out the strawberry in the water thing with water everywhere. So I went down to the Seattle U campus and took a picture of in a water feature using a 4,000 shutter speed.
Yeah,
That's
good.
yeah.
Good. And that's really where I wanted you all to go with this, is I wanted you to push the extremes of where the camera can go. Because the majority of the time we don't need, when you think about 1/4000th of a second, like my hands can't move that fast. Like it's so quick
Mhm.
that really, unless you're photographing like a race car going past you, or like a galloping horse or a cheetah running across the Serengeti, it's unlikely that you're ever going to have to go there. But what most people don't realize is that you can get a lot of interesting creative techniques using fast shutter speeds. It's not just reserved for capturing fast movement, which is kind of the direction in which I was trying to get you to move into, because we start to see things that we don't compute or see with our human eyes. We obviously don't see in 1/4000th of a second, like we also don't see in 30 seconds, like if you did a really slow shutter speed. Nancy, how did you find it?
Well, I might have used too small of a glass container because I used to have to, after I tried a picture, then I'd have to wipe the inside of the glass to get some of the splash. And I wasn't totally successful at wiping it up after a while, but it was fun. I had to take it outside. I couldn't do it inside.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we knew that was going to be a challenge. I know, Joanne, you messaged me that you were having some difficulty, obviously, with the weather. Um, the way around doing it, and we'll have a look at some of your setup pictures in a minute. But just a show of hands, how many of you have a camera flash?
How I do.
I have a ring flash.
Okay. Well, that's a form of flash. Okay, so everyone other than Nancy has a flash. So one thing that you can think about doing when using fast shutter speeds in inclement light, and that can be a cloudy day outside, and you're trying to photograph a tulip in the wind, and it's going like this, or more relevant is when you're inside where the light is really bad, the ambient light, or what we call the key light in photography. Remember, the key light just means the main light source. Sometimes that's the sun, sometimes it's a window, sometimes it's the light bulb ahead of you. If you're trying to get up to the pretty much anytime you go over 1/500 on a camera, so that's a lot, 1/500th all the way to 1/4000th. There's a fairly big spectrum there. That's considered an extreme shutter speed. That's considered that you're putting a lot of stress on the camera. In that, Nancy, as well, are we letting in lots of light or not much light at those levels?
Not much light.
Exactly. So we're letting in basically no light. So because we're letting in no light, we're putting a lot of pressure on the camera to have to alter something else to let us get more light in. So obviously we've got aperture and obviously we've got ISO. I don't need to go over those because I know everyone here knows what those are. But sometimes we max those out. We can only get the hole in our lens so big, depending on which lens you've got. Sometimes it's 5.6, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 2.8, sometimes it's 1.8. Remember, one thing actually that's kind of interesting is when you jump by a stop of light, which is 3 clicks of your camera. One, two, three. So, for example, if you went from f5.6 to f4, or you went from f4 to f2.8, that's 1, 2, 3 clicks of the camera, as in your dial to change the shutter speed. That is gaining a stop of light, gaining a stop of light, gaining a stop of light. Lots of things in photography work in threes. like the rule of thirds, but also moving stops of light works in threes. As you gain a stop of light, Susie, let's take a guess. Well, you may know it. How much relative light are we gaining? How much more light are we gaining when we go from like f5.6 to f4? One stop of light.
I don't know.
Anyone got any ideas?
30%, 33%, third? No.
No. So we're actually doubling.
And doubling.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as you
And
move, as you gain a stop of light
Gain.
in photography, because it's this, to pull back a minute, when photography was invented and they were like, how are we going to measure how much light is available? Rather than use an existing increment of measurement, this new increment of measurement called f-stops was invented. And f-stops was invented to tell us whether there's too much light or not enough light. You see it on the meter on the bottom of your camera when it goes to like -1 or +1 or -2 or +2. In real terms, and this is really important, if you didn't know it, write it down. When you gain one stop of light, when you gain an f-stop, you double the amount of light that gets to the camera. Maybe I'll show this all to you actually in a second. And at the same point, if you lose a stop of light, Mary, what does that mean? Do you think that means in relative terms?
If you lose,
One stop of light.
you must
How much less light do we get into the camera?
probably one stop.
Yes, so you lose a stop of light, but what is that's so abstract? Like, what does a stop of light mean? Like, if I was explaining it to someone who had no interest in photography, how much light are we losing is the question. Anyone got any ideas to help out Mary?
it do double.
2 times?
It would seem like it would be doubled at 50%. If it doubles, if it goes one direction, must go 50% in the other direction.
You
Yeah.
got it. You got it. It goes 50%. So it halves. So as we move from, and actually, do you know, have you all got your cameras there? I'm going to do a little exercise here.
Yes, I
We'll
have.
go and grab your cameras.
I'll go grab it. It'll take me a second.
It's okay. We got time. Everyone go and grab your cameras. And I'm actually going to share my screen. I'm going to draw a little diagram for everyone to help you all understand this. Okay. So, okay, we're gonna go super theoretical. Let me get my pen out. Okay, I'd love you all to set your cameras. I'll wait till Susie comes back, actually. Oh, you can do it while we're waiting. So I'd love you to set your cameras where you put so have your camera in manual, and I'd like you to set your shutter speed to 1/125. And I'd like you to set your F number to 8. So I'll put it here. So it's 1/125.
So 2,500, was that it? The shutter speed?
No, 1/125. You can see it on the screen. I've just drawn it on the screen. So shutter speed 1/125.
Okay.
F8, ISO 100. And let me know when you bought your cameras on that.
F8, huh?
Yes, please.
So we're in manual, right?
Yeah, please.
F8.
And then ISO 100.
Okay.
I have a third.
You should all be able to get there without much issue. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 columns here to help explain this, and then you guys can take a picture of it. So SS is shutter speed, A is aperture, and we'll do ISO in blue. So we'll do blue ISO. Okay, so let's start with shutter speed. Nancy, have you got it on 1/125?
No, because I had to change lenses because I had a lens baby on.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so let's, Suzette,
It wouldn't register.
Suzette, you on 1/125?
Not yet.
Okay,
I am.
Okay, hold on. Let's wait till everyone gets there, just so I want to make sure everyone can follow along. Mary, you have a question?
No, I've got it.
Okay, perfect. Let's just let
My ISO doesn't go to 150. It's
no, 100. Oh,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So 1/125,
Got it.
f8, ISO 100.
Got it.
Okay.
My F8, if that is a bit manual, 1/3, not one.
What's the question, Joanne?
My, if manual,
Yeah.
I'm getting a third. Oh, I'm under, hang on, oops, no, I'm not.
So if you put your camera on manual, you should all be able to adjust the shutter speed, adjust the aperture, and adjust the ISO.
Got the ISO and the
100.
reading, but I
At
don't know,
100.
I'm
And if you
having trouble
can't
getting
if you
my
can't get it
shutter-
right, if you can't get it right now, don't worry, because
Okay.
you can do it as I'm talking along here. So Mary's got it already. So I'm going to get Mary to help out the group. Hold on, Susie, you got a question.
No, I've got it too.
Okay, perfect. So Mary, you're going to help out the group here. You're going to help me be the teacher for a few minutes. So what I'd love you to do,
Folks.
I'm going to write down some numbers as you're reading it out. So I want you to go from just focus on changing the shutter speed on your camera. In
Okay.
fact, and I'm going to make this actually a bigger screen so we've got more room. So we'll do shutter speed over here. We'll do aperture in green over here. And then we'll do ISO in blue over here. Okay, so Mary's going to help me out. We're at 1/125. Okay, Mary, I want you to make the shutter speed faster. Okay, and just read me out the next number that comes up. So one click. So as you speed it up from 1/125.
160.
Okay, 160. Carry on going.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. 200.
Keep going.
250.
Yeah, keep going.
320.
Yeah, keep going.
400.
Yeah, and we can stop at the next one.
500.
Okay, great. Okay, now, nice job. Thank you for participating and helping. Suzette, next, you're going to help me now.
I don't know why the heck I'm having trouble with my shutter speed. I was playing with it all week,
Me too.
but I am.
If in doubt, sometimes turn the camera off and turn it back on. Sounds stupid, but sometimes it works.
Yeah.
Okay, Nancy, have you got a lens on that you can change your shutter speeds?
I have a lens on, but I'm not getting much on the shutter speed.
Okay.
There we go.
Why
Well, I
you-
turned
I
the
can only get it down to 1/500th.
Make sure you're all in manual, not in shutter speed priority. So you want to change the mode on your camera and make sure that you've got it on an M. You all know how to do this because I've seen you do it. So
Yeah.
just take your time, everyone, and let's make sure, because I want to make sure everyone can follow along.
Adam, you're so patient.
Tell my wife that.
Especially these days.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm about to move. Nancy says that because I'm about to move house. So having a lot of patience. Right. So
It's working now.
good. Okay. So Suzette, you're going to help me out. So let's get it at 1/125.
Okay.
Okay. And then I want you to do the opposite of what Mary just did. So I want you to slow the shutter speed down and I want you to read me what comes after 1/125
Okay.
as I'm slowing it down.
Comes after it.
Yeah, as in go one slower than 1/125. So imagine you were slowing the shutter speed down. You were letting in more light. While Suzette's finding it.
160.
No, that definitely won't be the next one. One click. I just want you to do one click from 1/125. So go back to 1/125
Okay.
and do just one turn of the dial.
Mine went to 160. Why would that be?
Okay, you may not have on what I'm about to show you. We may need to change it. You may be jumping in full stops. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Susie, what does yours go to after 1/125?
100,
Okay, next one.
80,
Next one.
60,
Next one.
50,
Yeah,
and
we'll
40,
let's do one more after 40 because I got a tiny bit of room.
30.
Perfect.
Okay, I got it.
You got it?
What I was doing.
Okay. So here's all our shutter speeds. Okay. Now we're going to, so remember I said I wanted you to set the camera up where I wanted you to have it on 1/125. So we're all going to put our shutter speeds back to 1/125 if you change them. Okay. Now we're going to do the F number. Oops. And the F number I told you to put it on is 8. Okay. So Joanne, if you're there, I'm not sure if you're there.
I'm
You okay?
1 to 5, right?
1 over 125 on the shutter speed and
That
F8.
I'm actually sorry, I'm on ISO. I don't want that. I go to somebody else right now, would you please? Because I'm
Yeah,
not.
absolutely. Just take your time. If you need help, just let me know. Susie, you can help me out here. Okay. Are you on F8?
Yes,
Okay. I want you to make the F number bigger.
bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
So go to a larger F number and just
yep, just a
read me
second.
out some numbers.
My okay, large. Let me think about this. Larger
Well, hold
would
on.
be nine,
Think.
nine,
Yeah, good. 9 exactly.
and then 10, and then 11,
Yeah.
12, 13,
Yeah.
14, 16,
Yeah.
and 18.
Okay,
You want
go
me to keep them
go
in
one.
one?
Go one more than 18.
20.
And we can go all the way to 22 if it will let me go down at 22.
Yeah, mine goes to 22.
Yeah.
Yes, that was mine.
Everyone's will go to 22.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Mary's going to help us go the other way from F8. So we're going to get the whole smaller and read me out the numbers.
20.
No, so it's just let's go to F8, Mary.
I'll go to F8. Okay, sorry.
All the way. No, no problem. Go to F8.
All right, okay, starting at F8.
And then I'll come
7.1,
yeah,
6.3,
yeah,
5.6,
yeah.
5.0, 4.5, 4.0,
Yeah,
3.
you can stop that. That's enough. 4.54. Okay. Hopefully you can read that. Sorry, it's over the top. Okay. So the reason I'm getting us to do this is I really want us to understand what changing the shutter speed, the aperture in the middle of the ISO actually does in the real world. There's like very abstract things like what shutter speed. When I asked you straight away about gaining an f-stop or losing an f-stop, I need you to understand exactly what that means, and more importantly, how you can control that in your camera, because that means you get to your picture that has a correct exposure, whether you're shooting at 1/4000th or whether you're shooting at 30 seconds, it doesn't matter, in an easier way. And this is all gonna make sense in a minute. I'm gonna tie why I'm drawing all these numbers and putting them up on the screen. Okay, let's do the last one, which is ISO 100. Okay, and we're going to go up from ISO 100, and Nancy's going to take us there. So Nancy, go to ISO 100. This is good practice for everyone in changing your ISOs. And then
125,
yeah,
160,
yeah,
200,
yeah,
250,
yeah,
320,
yeah.
400,
Keep on going.
500, 640, 800, 1,000.
Okay, stop there. That's fine.
Okay.
640, 500, 640. You had 800, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then 1,000.
Perfect. Okay. So in photography, not to freak you out, but there's over 500 and there's 570 odd shutter speed, aperture, and ISO combinations that you can use. So it's like where do we start? Well, usually I tell people to start if you're just walking around every day, like, and it's relatively good lighting, just start with the settings that I just gave you, which is 1 over 125, which means like it's a nice fast enough shutter speed. So most of the things are going to be frozen. F8, which is going to give you a nice depth of field, and ISO 100 to limit the noise. That's like if I was starting with a beginners group and they knew nothing about what aperture, shutter speed, and ISO was, that is where I would start them. Now, this is not a beginner's group, so I don't need to start you anywhere because you will know how to change it. What I need to do is explain to you what these are doing. Raise of hands, I think most of you. How many people have experience photographing on a film camera? Okay, most of you. So you may remember when you photographed on a film camera that and we'll use shutter speed as an example, when you changed your shutter speed, you would jump If you've got an old film camera, you can practice this, but it would jump straight from 1125. If I made it quicker, it would go straight to 1250. Then it would go to 1500.
It
That
jumps.
it jumps. It misses out a lot of these numbers. So it would go to here,
Oh,
and then it would go to here,
yeah.
or it would go to here. On any old film camera, and even a lot of the very preliminary digital cameras, because what this means is jumping from 1/60th to 1/125. Susie, is that
It's
letting in
not.
more, or is that letting in more or less light?
That's letting in more light.
Think about it. 1/60th
Yes.
to 1
Oh,
over.
less light,
You
sorry.
think in terms of fractions.
Yes.
Exactly. So we're letting in less light. So this is -1f. By f, I mean a stop.
Stops.
This-
Speed stops.
This is again is losing one stop of light, and this again is losing
Oh, interesting.
one stop of light. So, and we just
Okay.
discussed this.
I got it.
When we lose a stop of light, what does that mean in the real world? How much light are we actually losing as we go from stop to stop, as we lose a stop, lose a stop, lose a stop?
50%.
Good, really good. So we're basically dividing it by 2. So we're dividing by 2, we're dividing by 2, we're dividing by 2. If I go the other way, if I go on this side, okay, and I jump from these, let me just move my thing out of the way so I've got room here to draw this.
And you multiply it by 2.
I'm gaining 1f. Gaining 1f. And what does that mean is happening to the light?
Doubling.
Got it. Good. So we're doubling the amount of light as we jump. And sorry, this diagram is going to get a little bit messy. So what that's to say is on an old film camera, when it comes to shutter speed, you only had the ability to, every time you turn the dial, to either halve the amount of light or double the amount of light, which is not much control, because you're outside and you're like, oh my God, I can either gain an f-stop or I can lose an f-stop. Gaining 1f, doubling the amount of light, losing 1f, halving the amount of light. Okay, I'm going to go through this slowly because this is really theoretical, and I want to make sure that everyone's following me. Now, as digital cameras have become better, professional photographers like me were like, this is not enough control. Just having the ability to be able to double the amount of light or halve the amount of light, often we need an in-between because it's too aggressive. So about 15 years ago, maybe almost 20 years ago, but about 15 years ago, pretty much every digital camera manufacturer, whether you have a Nikon, a Sony, a Canon, an Olympus, it doesn't matter, they made a decision that they were going to give you the ability to be able to move in thirds of a stop. Yeah. So rather than just say, I'm going to double the amount of light, or I'm going to halve the amount of light, they built in, let's say we went from 1/60th to 1/125, they built in these extra numbers, 1/80th, 1/100, then you gain a stop.
So it's thirds.
Exactly. So you move in third increments. So every time you turn that dial to change the shutter speed, you are either gaining a third of a stop or you are losing a third of a stop, depending whether you speed it up or whether you slow it down. And again, I'm going to use some practical examples in a minute, but I just need you to get the theory first. Okay? So what most people don't realize is that in order, let's just imagine we had our light meter here, okay, down at the bottom. You're all familiar with the light meter, okay? And if my light meter was flashing at me here, so your light meter has these big bars like this, okay? And this is 1, 2, 3, and this is -1, -2, -3. This is stops of light. So if this is flashing at me here, that's telling me that my picture is one stop overexposed.
Oh.
So let's just imagine we had our camera settings of 1/125, f8, 100, What have I got to do with the shutter speed to get it back to 0? Anyone want to get a guess of if I'm at
And
1
where was it to start?
1
Yeah.
over 125? So I'll put the camera settings we've got. Let me write them at the top here. So our camera settings are
You
1
want less light. You want
Yeah.
less light,
but
right?
by how much? There's my camera settings that I've walked outside with.
A third.
Third.
Okay, let's think about it. It's 1 full stop of light overexposed. And I'm at 1 over 125. What have I got to change my shutter speed to get it to 0?
Want to let in
250.
less light. You want to go,
1 over 250.
You got it.
yeah,
So what we want to do
Yes.
is we want to let in less light, but we know exactly how much less light. That's why the meter's telling us.
so 3 clicks.
3 clicks. You got it.
Mhm.
Exactly. So 1 stop. Most people just look at this meter and they don't really understand what it actually means, which is what I'm trying to explain here. So if you're 1 stop overexposed, this is easy. You just change your shutter speed from 1 over 125 to 1/250, and this
Mhm.
goes to 0. Let's play out the scenario again. Let's imagining that this is flashing at me and it's 2 stops plus 2 because we've gone outside and it's really bright. Where
Gotta
does
do
the shutter?
6 clicks.
Well
6
done.
clicks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Susie, where's my shutter speed have to go if I'm at 1/125 to get it
If you're
back?
125, you go 2. You go to 130.
Think about I'm 2 stops overexposed. I'm too bright.
Oh, you're overexposed.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
over on the right here. I'm here. So
And
I'm
you're
here.
Okay, so it's the opposite. You're at 125 and you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You gotta go to 1/500.
You got it. So I go straight away to 1/500 f8 ISO 100 and I'm straight back to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct in remembering this about film cameras? It goes along with the fact that if you're going to be out on a bright day, you want to use your 400 speed film versus.
We're going to get to that. That's ISO.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to know if my brain was going in the right
We're
direction.
going in the right direction. At the moment,
Okay.
we're just talking about shutter speed. Mary, you have a question.
The question is, sometimes when I'm in that situation, I change my ISO, but then you run the risk of having an ISO that's too high.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a minute, I'm going to show you changing aperture and ISO. Absolutely. I don't want you just to always be changing the shutter speed. I'm teaching you the theory. But
All
yeah,
right.
you're right. Because in some cases, we don't want a faster shutter speed because maybe we want to show movement like flowing over a waterfall, but the picture's too bright. Well, I need to change something else. But the key to understand is that write it down, 3 clicks equals 1 stop when you're in manual. 3 clicks of the dial is either going to gain a stop, double it, double the amount of light, or it's going to lose a stop, half it.
Adam,
Yeah, go for it, Susie.
so all of this theory is assuming that we are generally shooting in manual, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
ultimately, to be honest, I really would expect this group to be shooting in manual because when you're shooting in shutter speed priority or aperture priority, you're using about 60% of what the camera can do. You're trusting the camera to make decisions that I think you would be better making yourself. There's that phrase that I've told you guys before. The best camera is the 2 inches behind it. You.
I haven't heard that one.
I actually hadn't heard you say that one
Oh,
before.
you know, I haven't used that one. Okay. Yeah, I use that one the whole time. I feel like
When does it fall off when you're in your 80s?
I feel like some of these I need to put on bumper stickers or on mugs and like give them to my students. But yeah, that's a great one. The technology is getting better and better and better, but still, you are smarter than the technology.
That's very optimistic of you. Thank you.
It's so true.
Very.
So true.
Well, once we're finished with this theory, hopefully, and you can as well go back and watch the recording on this. Okay, so does this make sense to everyone? We're just focusing on shutter speed.
Yeah.
In fact, let's play out one more scenario.
Okay.
Let's say, and I'm just gonna, I don't want anyone interrupting everyone, so I'm just gonna call on one person at a time. Let's ask Nancy. Okay, so let's say Nancy, I am at one. I'm gonna make up the camera setting. I'm at 1/500th. Actually, yeah, I'm at 1/500 f8 ISO 100, and I'm trying to take a picture. And the meter is telling me I am 3 stops underexposed. What have I got to change my shutter speed to get it back to 0?
1/60th, if I
Good,
count it right.
good, really good. How did it explain to the group? How did you get there?
I just took from 150 and counted up the list.
How many did you count?
6.
Try
Stop.
again. Try again. 6 would have taken you to 1 over 1/2.
I'm sorry. What did I do with it? How did I get there?
So how did you get there? You got the answer right. I just want to know how you got there.
4, 5, 6, 9. I'm sorry.
Good. So it's 9 clicks up. Why is it 9 clicks up?
Wanted to change it by
Because
3.
it's 1/3.
Oops, sorry.
Hold on, let's not interrupt each other. Let's let Nancy go first. Say that first, Nancy.
Because each click is a half.
Mhm.
Is yeah. No, a third.
A
Each
third.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hold on. So we're not even, I'm going to make it even simpler to begin with. 3 clicks is 1 stop.
Stop. Yes.
Easy. So if you're 3 stops underexposed, you just need to do 3 times 3.
Yes.
9. You got that.
Yeah.
So you have to click the shutter speed up 9 times
Correct.
to get to where you need to be. And to Mary's point, what Mary said earlier, that would take us to 1/60th, which would be correct. But maybe we're photographing a giraffe at the zoo, and we're like, we don't want to go to 1/60th because it's going to give us a well-exposed picture, but the shutter speed's too slow. So we don't always have to change shutter speed. I'm going to show you how to change aperture and ISO and tie this all together. But the key for the time being is I want everyone to bear in mind that 1 stop is 3 clicks, which is easy because if it was the other way here and it was flashing at me at +3, I would just go 9 clicks the other way, 3 clicks per stop. Okay, everyone with me so far?
So is that how you think of it in your head? I mean,
I
do
do
you-
it I would do it automatically without even thinking. But yes, that is how I would want people to think in their head and how I teach people. And over time, as you get better, this happens instantaneously. It's like It's like saying when I teach you how to drive a car and you have to put your foot on the gas and turn the wheel and doing the signal at the same time. When someone tells you that and you've never driven a car, you're like, oh my God, this is so much to think about. But when you practice this, it becomes very instinctive, totally natural. You just got to practice. But the key first thing to remember is 3 clicks equals 1 stop. So as I said, what used to happen with a film camera and even early digital cameras, and what I've shown you so far, is you could only jump by 1 stop. Double the amount of light, you gain a stop. Half the amount of light if you lose a stop. The camera manufacturers all got together like 15 years ago, as I said, and they said, this is not enough control. We want to be able to move in thirds of a stop. And this is why on your little light meter, you see these little mini bars in between the big bars.
Mhm.
Those are the clicks.
Those are the clicks. Those are the thirds of the stop. Okay. So Suzette, I'm going to call on you now. So imagine I'm going to put my camera settings up here. I'm at 1 over 125. We're just going to focus on shutter speed for the time being. I'm at 1 over 125, f8, ISO 100. And it is showing me that I am here on this one here.
On which one?
In
Down.
between the 2 and the 3.
Yeah, one in between the 2 and the 3. Hopefully.
So it's underexposed. No.
So first of all, let's figure out, is it underexposed or is it overexposed? I'm
It's
still
overexposed.
Overexposed.
Hey, by how much?
I'm sorry. Did you
4.
say something?
By how much?
3.
It's by let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clicks.
7 clicks, but how many stops? How many stops?
Let's see. 2 and 1/3.
Very good. Excellent. So I'm 2 and 1/3 overexposed. Okay.
Are you starting at 0 or I'm
No.
not following?
We're trying to get to 0, correct?
Yeah. So hold on. Let me pull
Trying
back.
to get to 0.
So we're always trying to get to zero. Zero is what we call in photography optimal exposure. So that's like the picture's not too bright and the picture's not too dark. The meter is there to help you get to zero. What most people don't understand, though, is they just fiddle with the numbers and it gets them to zero eventually. I want us to be much more intentional to understand what this meter is doing and how we get back to zero. So let's ask Joanne, if I was 2/3 overexposed, how many clicks do I need to do of my shutter speed to get it back to zero? I'm not sure if Joanne's still there.
I'm listening.
But still
What,
there.
how many clicks to get it back? Don't I have to do, well,
Think
one,
back, think back,
two,
think back, think backwards. How many clicks is one stop?
three?
Okay, so I'm 2 1/3 to how
Well,
many?
it's like we just said that, didn't we? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7.
Good. 7 clicks. You got it. So all I have to do is on my shutter speed, if I'm overexposed, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to run out of room here. 6, 7. And if I put this on 1/640, which I don't have the number there, that would bring me back to zero.
Hmm.
So we have more control now that we did. As I said, I started by just showing you moving full stops. 3 clicks, 3 clicks, 3 clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every click, every time we change our shutter speed, and the same is true in aperture, I'm going to show you in a minute. Every time we do 1 click of changing a number, we are moving in 1/3 of a stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Making sense to everyone so far?
Mhm.
Okay, this is really heavy theory, so if it's not clear, please tell me, and I'll make sure that we all understand it. Okay, so let's talk about aperture for a second and how these two combine. Now, again, if I threw you a 30-year-old lens and I said, change your aperture, you only have the ability to go from f4 to f5.6 to f8 to f11 to f16 to f22, i.e. you could only jump in full stops.
Mhm.
It's exactly the same as what I showed you with the shutter speed. You essentially could only make the hole double as big or half as small. Plus 1f. I'll just draw this on this one so it's clear. So as we move from 22, are we losing light or gaining light, Suzette, as I go down here?
We are losing light.
Good. So this is minus 1f, minus 1f. So as I go down each one, I'm losing a stop. If I went the other way,
Be gaining light.
You're
I'd
gaining.
be gaining light. You got it. So this is plus 1f. Okay. I actually don't even need to draw that one. It's going to make it too messy. Okay. So again, exactly the same as with shutter speed. 20 years or so ago, and it's only improved as time has gone on, and this is now incorporated into every one of your iPhones, you just don't realize it, is again with aperture, camera manufacturers gave us the ability to move in 1/3 of a stop.
Interesting.
So that shutter speed and aperture could tie in with one another. And I'll explain why that's so important. So let's imagine again, I'm going to make up some camera settings, and I'm going to say we're at 1125 f8 ISO 100. Let me just move my little bar out of the way here. ISO 100. Okay, and I look at my meter down here again. I wish I had more room here. I look at my meter down here, and the picture is telling me that it is, I'll put it right there. Okay, you can use a different color arrow if that makes it clear. So I'll put it right there. So Mary, how dark is this telling me that the picture is? What does that meter mean? Where if this was flashing at me like here?
That you're underexposed.
By how much?
4 stops.
I don't know. Let Mary do it. I don't want people interrupting each other.
Okay. 1, 2. Oh, wait, underexposed. How many stops?
Yeah,
And
by how much am I underexposed is the question.
how many clicks? or
No, just how many, just what is this telling me? If -1 and a
half,
close. Someone want to help her out?
a third.
Good,
Third,
good,
third.
very good. So it's
One
minus
and a
one and
third.
a third. So each one of these,
Mhm.
nice job. Each one of these little bars represents a third. So this is telling me I'm -1 and a third
Mhm.
underexposed. Susie, how many clicks does that mean I need to get me back to 0?
You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Try again. -1 and a third. How many clicks is one
Oh,
stop?
-1 and a third. Are you at the arrow? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the arrow. I'm right here. I'm at this orange.
Okay. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.
Yeah, and you shouldn't even have to count because one stop is 3 clicks.
Yeah.
One
To
and
the
a
third,
yeah.
it's just another click, so it's 4.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
at the beginning, everyone counts. So, but as you get better, you don't need to count. So
Yeah.
that's telling me to get this back to 0, I need to do 4 clicks of my camera.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we just practiced, I could do this on shutter speed. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I took that picture at 1/50th, so this would go to 1/50th, the photograph would be properly exposed at 1/50th. Now, what happens though if I had a big long lens on? I couldn't, and I wanted to get a sharp photograph. I can't come down to 1/50th because it's too slow for me to hand hold the camera. I don't have my tripod with me. So what you can do that's really cool that most people don't appreciate is you can kind of what's the word I want to use? You can share the clicks. So they don't all have to be on shutter speed. For example, so our camera settings are up here. Okay, I'll put them in a square up here. Let's put them in a square up there. Okay, 1/125 f8 100, and it's telling me that I'm -1 and a third underexposed. This is really relevant to all the fast shutter speed stuff that you guys were doing and struggling to get enough light. So I can say here, I'm hand holding the camera, so I can't really slow down the shutter speed that much. Maybe I slow it down by 1 click. So I take it to 1/100. That brings me here because I've gained
One
third
stop.
of the stop. Okay. Then I can say, actually, I want to get back those other 3 clicks, that other stop of light. So I've got a third back with the shutter, but I need -1 and a third. I'm going to get the other one back with aperture. 1, 2,
Oh,
3.
wow. Okay.
So taking this to 5.6, and so I've shared the clicks. I used 1 click on shutter speed and 3 clicks on aperture to ultimately get me the 4 clicks I needed. -1 and a third. I told you this is quite heavy theory, so just stick with me. But this is the real fundamentals of digital photography. It's how these numbers all work with each other.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that has anyone ever had this explained to them before? Anyone seen anything like this?
No,
No.
not this way. No.
Okay, is it making sense now? Is it starting to tie together?
It's theoretically making sense, but I'd have to practice this to make it really make
To
sense.
see how it works.
Yeah. So I'm going to play out another situation. Okay. So I'm driving this home. So imagine we were out photographing some running water, like Mary went and photographed the waterfall. Okay. But I don't have the number here. But let's just imagine, and actually let's all put, and I'm gonna make you do it. Let's all put our cameras on 1/4000th of a second. The really fast shutter speeds you went to. Okay, everyone let me know once you're there. And then let's put our F number at F8. And then let's put our ISO at 100.
So what did you say?
So 1/4000,
Yeah.
F8, ISO 100.
ISO.
Now, for all of you, it's going to tell you that the picture's way too dark when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
because you're inside. So for all of you, it's going to be flashing, telling you it's way, way, way too dark.
Yeah.
I just want to use it as an example. And because you're all in different rooms with different lights, I can't do it exactly for everyone, but I want to just run through the theory. So let's just imagine you put it on those settings and your camera is flashing at you at -3. It's telling you it's -3 stops underexposed, i.e. the picture's basically going to come out black. First question to Joanne is how many clicks of my camera do I have to do to get it back to 0?
9.
Good, really good. Well done. So it's 9 clicks to get us back to 0, i.e. a well-exposed photograph. Now I can share those clicks, not only across shutter speed and not only across aperture, but I can also share them across ISO.
So,
So I have 9 clicks to play with here. So, but there's always going to be one non-negotiable when it comes to shutter speed and aperture. If we're doing these fast fruit dropping into water, then obviously shutter speed is our non-negotiable. If we're photographing a big landscape and we want everything in focus, our F number is our non-negotiable. So I'm just going to pretend here, because of the assignment that we just did, that we were photographing the fruit. And the 1/4 dropping into the water, and the 1/4000 was our non-negotiable. Nancy, give me, tell me if I fixed this and I needed to get back 3 stops of light, give me some ideas of what I could do.
I would drop the aperture down to maybe 5.6 and take the ISO up
Okay, great. So
6 steps.
let's talk. Good. So let's talk that through. So Nancy suggested we take the aperture, we make it bigger, the hole, by 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3. That's gaining a stop of light plus 1 F. That brings us from 3 to 2. Susie, then what can we do with the ISO to get us from 2?
Then the ISO, maybe you can bump the ISO to 1, 2, 3. Can you go 3 clicks to 200?
Okay, so we could go 3 clicks to 200. That's gaining a stop. That gets me almost there. So now I'm at -1, but I want to get back to 0.
Maybe do more with your ISO.
Got it. Exactly. So all I'm going to do is
your ISO,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I'm going to gain 2 Fs from the. So what I've done here is I've got 2 Fs from the ISO and I've got 1 F from the aperture. 3 clicks aperture, 6 clicks ISO. And when I combine those, I get my 9 clicks.
Wow.
And I get back to 0. And you guys can take a picture of this. I mean, it's a bit messy now, the screen, but if you want to take a picture of it, you can feel free to take a picture. But you've also got the recording. But it may be useful for those of you on an Apple, a good little trick if you want to take a screenshot is if you do Shift, Command, and 4, you can draw over the screen and you can create a screenshot or take a picture on your phone, whatever's easier. Okay, so is this starting to make more sense to people?
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm gonna do another one. Maybe the last one. I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna imagine, and this is to Mary's point, that I was photographing inside and my ISO was already at 1000. So I'm going to draw some new camera settings up here. Let me just draw them. I'm going to draw some new camera settings. So I'm going to pretend now that our camera settings were, let's say 1/250, f8, ISO 1000. Okay. And when I look at my meter here, and you don't actually see the numbers, it just looks, you have big bars like this, And then you have little mini bars in between. Those mini bars are the thirds of the stops. Okay, these little mini bars in here. Okay, I am going to ask Joanne this. When I am doing this, it is flashing at me right, and sorry, my meter is not drawn very well, but it's flashing at me right here. Okay,
Mhm.
how
So
much underexposed am I?
a 1 2/3.
Very good, really good. So if I'm 1 2/3 underexposed, Suzette, how many clicks do I need to get me back to 0?
5.
Very good. Excellent. So we need 5 clicks to get me back to 0. And these are my camera settings. So I've got tons to play with. Now, the easiest thing to do is I could say, oh, I'm just going to lift the ISO up by 5 clicks. The problem is, like Mary mentioned, what's going to happen if we turn it up too high?
You're going to lose detail.
Yeah,
Too
we're going to
much
get,
light.
yeah, well, not only we won't have too much light because we'll be where we need to,
Noise.
but we'll have too much noise. We'll have too much
Oh,
detail.
right, right.
Remember, again, not to dwell too much on theory, but this is turning into a very theoretical lesson, which is good because I think the theory is important. When you increase the ISO on your camera,
Yeah.
the digital camera, what actually happens is when you press the button to take your picture, you're producing. Well, let's pull back a bit. When you press the button, you take a picture on your camera. Imagine I'm the sensor. Loads of little electrons are created, and these electrons like buzz around and they hit against each other and they create heat. And when they hit it together and they create heat, that heat is digital noise. And that generally makes our photograph look less sharp. It makes our photograph look less colorful. It has a decreased dynamic range. So we generally don't want to do that. Now, there's lots of software that I've shown you some things already that help you get rid of the noise, like the enhance thing in Lightroom and various other things that you can use. But in general, rule of thumb is we want to keep our ISOs as low as possible. Although as cameras have got better and better and better, when I was started as a professional photographer 23 years ago, I couldn't lift my ISO higher than about 800, and it was a disaster. The camera I've got now, I can get it to 5,000. It's got a little bit of noise, but it's
5,000? Wow.
yeah, my camera. Yeah, but I've got a really, really high-end camera. Remember, I take pictures every day. I mean, it's my
Which
job.
camera, just out of curiosity?
I've got the Nikon Z9.
Ah,
But the highest of the high-end Sonys, Canons, Nikons, they can all go now to about 5,000. They have a bit of noise in them, but they're usable. That's not the point here, though. The point is, I'm imagining that I can't go above 1,000 because I'm concerned about noise. So I've got to get 1 2/3 stop back of light, but I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to say I'm photographing some ducks in the pond in a park. So I'm photographing some ducks in a pond. It's really dark. It's like twilight, which is why my settings are here and it's telling me it's too dark. Which would be the first thing that I would change between this 1 250 f8 and ISO 1000, Susie?
F8. I mean, change the f-stop
Good.
to
5 6.
5 6 or yeah, or
Well, if I change it to 5 6, am I going to get back to 0?
Mhm. Mm-mm.
let me think.
So
Look at the
one,
numbers. Hold on, let's let people do it one at a time. So let's let Susie do it first.
So you're photographing ducks. You're down 3. You're down 3 stops? Which one are we at now? Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
we're looking here.
Okay, you're at this. You're down 1 2/3 stops.
Yeah.
And you want to add more light. So
Yeah.
you could do you could change it to it's dusk.
Yeah, it's just dark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just dark outside.
Okay.
It's telling me it's dusk or it's just after sunrise.
Okay. You need more light. Okay. So you would do F12 or what do you do? F11 maybe, or
That's it. More light, not less
more
light.
light in, and then you could do couldn't you change the
Backtrack, Susie. Backtrack. Going
Yeah.
from F8 to F11, is that letting in more light or less light?
Oh, that's last slide. Sorry. I'm a little dyslexic, so we have to
Yeah,
accommodate.
there's a lot of numbers here.
Yeah, no, I know. But yeah, you could try 5.6.
Good, really good. So we go to 5.6.
And
Okay.
couldn't you drop the ISO a little? Does it need to be at 1,000 at dusk?
Well, no, I'm making up that it's really dark. Maybe we're in a cave and there's a duck.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought it was dusk.
I'm making up a different, it can be dusk. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out which, yeah.
The point is the reason I said ducks in a pond is you're photographing something that's moving.
Moving, yeah.
Moving, right.
So the easy thing that we could do here is we could just take the shutter speed down by 4 clicks. What,
Mhm.
like 1, 2, 3, 4. The problem with doing that is the duck will then be blurry.
Ooh, yeah. No.
So we have to think about, I've got to get my 4 clicks back here, but where can I most advantageously get those 4 clicks without ruining my picture, without ruining the movement I'm trying to capture, or without moving the amount of depth that I'm trying to do? And you're right, Susie, the correct answer here was aperture. So you could take your aperture all the way down to, if you took it down by 4 clicks to f5, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to bring you back to 0. So we just cross this one out and this becomes 5. And that's perfect. Now I could have, if I had my camera and I wasn't worried about ISO, I could have gone up 5 clicks with the ISO. Let's imagine there were 3 ducks in a row and I wanted them all to be in focus. Then I can't drop my F number that low because that's my non-negotiable, is that I need the 3 ducks in a row all in focus.
Mhm.
So as you play around with this and as you begin to understand it, you start to really appreciate the interplay between shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And the real key thing to remember, if you take it, I know this is very like a lot of numbers and a lot of things, that the most important takeaway to begin with is 3 clicks equals 1 stop of light.
Mhm.
That's the most important. If you can remember that, everything else will fall into place. So 3 clicks one way is either going to gain a stop of light. Suzette, remind me, if I gain a stop of light, what's actually happening to the light? How much more light when I say I'm plus 1F?
You're doubling it.
Good, really good. So I'm either doubling the amount of light by gaining a stop, or I'm losing 1F and I'm halving the amount of light every 3 clicks. But to summarize, remember now with digital cameras, we have the ability to move in thirds of a stop. That gives us much more control. And that's why your light meter has those little mini bars in between the big bars, because you can very precisely say, I'm plus 2 1/3 overexposed. Therefore, I need 7 clicks. 3 clicks for 1 stop, 3 clicks for the next stop, 2 1/3 plus 1, 7 clicks. And then you figure out in your head, and I can't give you a golden rule here and say you always change this or you always change this, because it's completely dependent on what you're taking a picture of.
Yeah.
Right.
If I'm at home and I'm on a tripod and I'm taking a picture of a camellia sitting on my kitchen table, then I can drop the shutter speed as slow as I want, and I can use that to get all my clicks back, because the thing's not moving and I'm not moving. But if I'm in Japan and I'm on a boat and I'm photographing a landscape and I'm moving plus a landscape, then we've got to think about, I need a fast shutter speed to keep me steady here on the boat. Maybe I need a relatively big F number, then I increase the ISO. And in truth, what happens is you get better and better and better with this, is you combine all 3, which is why I've put them as the table here. So it's rare where you're just like, I'm 2 stops underexposed, I'm just going to change the shutter speed by 6 clicks. I'm 1 stop overexposed, I'm just going to change the ISO. Sometimes. But most of the time we use a combination of shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, with our knowledge now that 3 clicks on any of those things is gaining a stop of light or losing a stop of light. And in fact, you can even think of it as 1 click is gaining 1/3 of a stop or losing 1/3 of a stop. Whether you're changing your ISO, your aperture, or your shutter speed, it doesn't matter. And this is how we really become much more intentional with getting off. This is an intermediate. I mean, I would never show this to a beginner class. You guys are an intermediate Like,
Good.
They might put down their cameras forever.
yeah, I was going to say this would scare them off. They'd never pick it up again. But the key to understand here is how you guys are really intentional with your compositions. How you're very intent. Good photography is not guesswork. Good photography is not just I'm going to fiddle a few numbers and hopefully get to where I want to get to. Really good photography is really understanding, and this is the foundation of it all. Remember, the word photography comes from the Greek drawing with light, photography. Photo means light, graphy means drawing or painting. And once you start to get this down, this is like the key to unlock you really successfully shooting in manual on your camera.
This is the exposure triangle, isn't
This
it?
is the exposure triangle. You got it. Exactly. And has everyone got the picture of the screen before I get rid of all my drawings? Everyone happy that they've got it? Yeah. So what Susie's referring to here is, sorry, my bad drawing, but we have A, S, and ISO. We have, this is called the exposure triangle. And these three things are constantly pushing and pulling on each other, as we saw, to create our photo or our exposure in the middle. And what we want, ideally, I'm going to draw a much better diagram than this. We want a nice triangle like this. A, S, ISO. What we don't want is a triangle that looks like this. Or the other way, that looks like this. Where one of the things is skewed and everything is not. And again, you don't need to worry so much about this. You don't see this happening. But if your things are off, you do not have a perfect triangle. And we want, this is what we call in photography optimal exposure, when everything is balanced between the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. And most people, I teach professional photographers sometimes this, and they've never even thought about it. And then they've shot a manual and they've kind of figured it out. And especially, I think, has everyone in the class got a mirrorless camera now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so mirrorless has almost made us lazy, right? It's very hard to underexpose or overexpose a picture because as you're changing it, you see the picture get brighter or darker. We never used to see that. We had to depend completely on the meter. But even with a mirrorless camera, what you see through the viewfinder is not necessarily the exact exposure that what you're going to get. That's why we sometimes use the histogram, because we say the histogram never lies. People have the histogram up on their camera. But the big takeaway from this is I want you to start looking at your light meter. And when we were doing, and we'll look at the splash photographs in a minute, when you were doing the splash photographs, this would have been a perfect example. And you would have seen, oh my God, it's flashing at me at -2 2/3. I've got to get 8 clicks back, 2 2/3. One stop, 3 clicks, another stop, 3 clicks, plus the other 2, that's 8. And I can't change my shutter speed because otherwise the water's not going to be frozen. So I need to share those 8 clicks between ISO and aperture. Maybe I do 6 on one and 2 on the other. Maybe I do 4 and 4. It really depends what you're photographing. But the key is to understand that every time you change something, it works in thirds of a stop. And for those of you, when I asked about flashes, everything in photography when it comes to lighting works in f-stops. All, like any piece of photographic equipment. If you pick up your flash, and I'm not going to do this now because some people don't have a flash, but just so you are aware of it, if you have a flash that goes on your camera, by default, that will be on automatic. It will be on something called TTL or ITTL. You may see these letters come up, which basically just means, depending on the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO that you have, the intensity of the flash will be either weaker or stronger, depending on how much light the camera is telling the flash you need. Now, again, that works maybe 5 out of 10 times. But eventually, I'm not going to talk about it today, but as we get more advanced, we move our flash also onto manual. And when you move your flash onto manual, you again have thirds of a stop of light that you can either make. So it could be that you don't want to change anything on your, I'll just draw a hypothetical again here. Let's imagine we're doing our fruit. Okay, and we're at 1/4000, we're at f4, and we're at ISO 1000. And my meter is telling me that I am -2. I'm 2 stops underexposed. You're like, yikes. I can't slow down my shutter speed because the fruit won't be sharp. I can't really take my F number lower because maybe my lens doesn't take me, or if I take it too low, I'm not going to get, because lots of lenses cap out at f4. Lots of lenses cap out at 2.8, depending which lens you've got. And I don't want to lift my ISO too high because I'm going to get a really noisy, grainy picture. In those situations, if you had a flash, you can manually set the flash and say, I need 6 clicks of light. I need 2 stops. So using a flash allows us to maintain the settings that we want, and it just tricks the camera to think that it's 2 stops brighter. Again, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of flash too much today because I think it's too complicated and we can cover it another day. But I just want you to be aware that everything if you came into a photography studio with me tomorrow, you would hear us all talking to each other saying we're a third of a stop, we're minus 2/3, we're 2 stops too bright, we're -3 stops too bright. It's just the language of how we talk about light in photography. And even when it comes to Lightroom, which you all use, and don't worry about the picture so much for the time being, but when it comes to Lightroom and you have your exposure here, 1, if I put that to 1, that's 1 stop of light. 2 is I'm gaining 2 stops of light. So if I go from here to 1, that's doubling the amount of light in this picture. If I go from 1 to 2, that's doubling it again. So everything is kind of tied together to make life easy for you, or easier, in that everything works. If I go down to -1 here, how much less light have I let into this picture? Call out anyone who.
1 stop.
Yeah.
6 stops.
Yeah, 1 stop, which is how much is losing a stop of light in actual terms in the real world.
A
Isn't
third?
that a half? 50%?
Half. It's a half. Yeah, not a third.
No,
Remember,
no, half, okay.
Yeah.
it's a half. When we lose, so going from here, going from. Let me get back to 0. Going from there to 1, I'm halving the amount of light you see in this picture.
Okay.
If I go there to 2, I'm halving it again. If I go there to 3, I'm halving it again. So this random number here is not a random number. It's stops of light,
Oh,
which most people don't appreciate. And you can actually see, if you look at the histogram at the top there,
okay.
if you look on the top, I can't move my cursor, the number will disappear. But if I put it at -3, you can see that the histogram is shoved all the way over to the left. That's telling me it's too dark. And it's actually telling me on the bottom right of that histogram, you can see it says -3.
Mhm.
That's telling me it's 3 stops underexposed. 9 click. And everyone, I can't get up. If we're blocking it, you can move us. But just on the bottom right of the histogram, you should see a number that says -3.
Mhm.
I don't think I can. I'll try. No, I can't draw it. If I move, it disappears. Okay, good. Does that anyone got any questions on that? It's a lot to take in. I know. You can go back. You can look at the recording. But as I say, the biggest takeaway.
3 stops.
Mary, if I need to gain 1 stop of light, how many clicks do I need to do of my camera?
3.
Good, very good. So if you remember that, you'll be on the right path. Okay, and then, but out of interest, do you all photograph in manual most of the time?
Yes.
I do.
So some of us. So Mary, what you photograph in shutter speed or aperture priority, depending on what you're photographing?
Usually aperture, but
Yeah.
for this assignment, I was in shutter speed.
Good. So this may be a good activity for you, Mary, for everyone, but to start to shift towards manual. And that's a big leap. It's a big change from what you've been doing. And because when you're in aperture or shutter speed priority, it essentially stops you from taking an underexposed or overexposed picture because the other 2 variables are changing on your behalf. As I said, a lot of the time, the camera has no clue whether you're taking a picture of a water droplet, a rose, or my dog. Like, it doesn't care and it doesn't know.
Mhm.
All it cares about is giving you the right exposure, the right amount of light. So when you move into manual, you're straight away saying, oh, I'm actually taking a picture of a running dog and I need some blur behind it. So I know in my head I need a low F number and a fast shutter speed.
Mhm.
In that case, I'd probably have to lift up my ISO to get the exposure. If I was just on shutter speed priority, well, let's say there were 3 dogs in a row and I wanted all of them, the camera doesn't know that. So the camera would just drop your F number as low as it will possibly go to give you the correct exposure, but you won't get the photograph that you really intend to have.
Mhm.
So yeah, Mary, I would definitely try moving over to manual. That would be an interesting, and it'll be challenging at the beginning. It's challenging probably for everyone here who's still who shoots on manual. It's not easy, but ultimately it gives you much better rewards in the long run once you learn how to use it. Okay, so a lot of theory there. We'll practice it. Let's now look at everyone, and I'm hoping now with what I've showed you, seeing the challenges that some of you had on these is gonna make a lot more sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll go through them one by one, and we're gonna pick them apart a little bit, and we're gonna look at the settings. Okay, so I can't remember whose is whose, so feel free to shout out your name if this is yours. But
That's mine,
okay, so really
Nancy.
nice job, Nancy. So let's look. Can everyone see the settings at the top left?
Hmm?
So Nancy was at 2000, 6.3. Look what she had to do with her ISO.
Mhm.
I'm taking it you were inside, Nancy.
No, actually, I was outside, but
You're
it was
outside.
overcast.
It's overcast. Okay, perfect. So Nancy, to be honest, the exposure she's got here is pretty good. It's not really that like she's nailed it. One thing Nancy could have done is thought, I'm a bit concerned about going up to such a high ISO number because if I eventually want to do something with this or blow it up, look at, hopefully you guys can see, look at all this noise in here. See all the little dots?
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, like we know that Lightroom has some tools, notably this button that says denoise that it won't let me press because it's a JPEG. But look, it has lots of tools where I can get rid of the noise
Mhm.
just by sliding that slider. And again, we'll cover this in a bit more detail next class. This is on my list of things to do. But the key is I want you to get it as right as you can out of camera. So Nancy could have taken her ISO down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
let's say to 2000, and she could have brought her F number down to F4 because there was only one thing she was taking a picture of, which is the water droplet. She didn't care if the back of the vase back here was blurry or not. Just to give you some ideas. But
But
Nancy,
I was on a cylinder about 5 inches in diameter, 6 inches, and it would splash all around the cylinder.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you've done a
So
great job here, Nancy. It looks really good, really good. Nancy? What's causing that yellow reflection in there?
because that's the kumquat that missed
Oh,
coming down.
oh,
That was
fine.
the splash up. And
Okay,
the
good.
green is from something at the other end of the patio table.
Yeah. So I
That
mean, like we could have cropped in on this and just gone to this, and straight away that's something really interesting and abstract. Especially if I do a teeny bit of work on it for a second, I just bring a bit more texture and just put a tone curve on it. Like,
It
look
looks
how,
like mussel shells.
yeah,
yeah.
like, isn't that interesting what we can get? Now, again, you can play around with this. You know, I'm a big fan of rotating and turning things. I probably go this way. You could probably go this way. I could
Mhm.
crop it even more. It kind of looks like an
Like a
elephant.
body.
Yeah, I kind of, I mean, I always see eyes. So I see, look, there's the eye. And it almost looks like a squid. And then here's like the long nose coming out, and here's its head. And but really well, yeah, or an elephant. It looks like an elephant's back. But
It's a woman's body.
yeah, there we go. It's good. We can all interpret it. And I can't see the what I'm trying to figure out. I can't see the woman's body.
She's lying down. She's lying down.
Um, but this is a really good start, Nancy. Really good. The timing's very hard to get it once it drops in. That's why I want you to use as a reminder the
I
continue.
was using my remote and I had it on multiple exposures.
Yeah, you've almost got to press it before it hits the water. So you got to almost from when you drop it, you got to be pressing the button. If you try to time it when it hits the water, you're probably
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah.
Yes.
But really good job in getting like a strong splash photo. Here's another one, Nancy. Very similar. I'll put up your settings. So this one, again, you could have probably even, Nancy, if you would have wanted the water like drop yours even sharper, you could have upped your shutter speed a little bit more. And if you would have upped your shutter speed, you could have just taken your F number down
Mhm.
just a little bit. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it does.
But overall, really good. Let's look at, oh, I don't know why I've got some duplicates here. Let's look at, oops, definitely didn't want to do that. Hold on 1 second. Why am I not in the right collection here? There we go. Let's look at this one. This one, and let's look at the settings. So this one, lots of different fruit dropped in, great splashes, fast shutter speed, even faster than what we just saw. And I think I purposely haven't mixed everyone's up here. This is yours again, Nancy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do each person one at a time. I think makes more sense today. And again, like, I mean, even if you just went in on this bit down here, like this is really interesting and really abstract. And again, I think you could have pushed the shutter speed even faster if you'd wanted to and
Okay.
just lowered the F number. But really not, I mean, dropping one piece of fruit in is hard enough. When you dropped like however many pieces of lemons
I
and things,
had a half of lime and 3 kumquats.
yeah, so and you just drop them all in together.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really good. Really, really good. And well, nice framing. You had to push up your ISO. That's okay. We usually have to if we don't have some type of external, especially if it wasn't a bright day. But really nice, really, really nice job. Same
I
thing.
also, because I was using the citrus, I put a deflector, the gold side of a deflector underneath it.
You mean a reflector, not a deflector.
Reflector.
A reflector. A
Reflector,
deflector is
yes.
taking light away. A reflector is reflecting.
I don't know whether it really, and I never did take a picture of the setup. But I don't know whether it did much.
It definitely would have done something.
Okay.
Kick light back in and probably given you about, to talk photographer speak, probably given you about a third to 2/3 of a stop more light,
Okay.
which is good, which is what we wanted. This one's really this one when I looked at it, the top right kind of looks like we're on another planet. It looks like we're in space. And it looks like you've got like some weird like the sun or a thing, and these almost look like little stars. But it's just quite interesting. I mean, again, Nancy, I think I like how you've sent it to me, but there's also there's a great shot just here
It is.
of those two going. This is exactly what I wanted you guys to get to. And the
Mhm.
improvement, by the way, in everyone from when I did this last time to when I did this time is huge. Because none of you were getting anything last time, anything close, which is fine, which is kind of what I'd expect. That's why we're doing classes and that's why we're learning together. But look how interesting this looks again. And again, Nancy's really challenged herself because dropping in 2 pieces is difficult. But look how we're seeing like these streams of water. 1/2/500th of a second. In this case, Nancy did drop her F number lower. Again, she could have gone a little bit lower, but really, really nice job. Really nice job.
Hmm.
Very good. Let's look at this one. This is Mary's, I think. So
Eight.
this is going up to, oops, let's just make it big. So this is very fast shutter speed, which interesting, it instantly makes this feel more abstract because you don't really know what's going on. Like if I didn't tell you that was water, I mean, you may figure it out, but look at what Mary had to do she's done everything right here. And this is, well, actually, you didn't do this, Mary. The camera did it because you were
I
on
know.
shutter speed
I know.
priority. So she put her shutter speed up. What did the camera freaks out and goes, oh my God, Mary's letting in no light. Remember, it doesn't know what she's taking a picture of. It just wants the light. Look what it's done to the F number. The first thing it does is it just makes the F number as big as it possibly can go. Now, a lot of the time, we don't want that because we're not going to get the depth in the picture that we require. And if you look carefully at this picture, that's happened. Like this bit in here is sharp, but back here is blurrier. Maybe we did want that, but the point is I need you to be in control. So if you're photographing this water feature and you're like, oh, this is so interesting, and I want to make sure more of it is sharp, when you're in manual, Mary, you would just take this up to, let's say, F4.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone remember without me having my diagram, 2.8 to F4?
One stop.
One stop. It's one stop.
One
Good.
stop, 3 clicks.
3 clicks. So it's gaining one stop, 3 clicks. So that means when I do that, that means I gotta get a stop back somewhere else, because otherwise the picture, if I went to F4, is going to end up being too dark. Sorry, that shouldn't be plus F. That should be minus F. So this should be minus 1F. So all I do is I take my ISO and I go up by 3 clicks. And hopefully this is making much more sense now since I've shown you all the tables and the numbers. Out of interest, Mary, what's back here like that you cut off? Is it more water?
It's a patio with chair legs, and because this was against some glass,
Mhm.
I'd be looking through the glass at the patio with chair legs, and it didn't add to the photo.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you can kind of see you can see the reflections of that in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a nice crop. Remember, just a side point, Mary, just remember sometimes when you crop, if you go to a more panoramic crop
Mhm.
like this, and just be wary that because what you're doing is you're unconstraining the crop. So you've turned the padlock off to mean that you can go like this, which is fine. But most of the time, we do want to keep that padlock closed, especially
Okay.
if we're thinking, if I put my GCA hat on as a GCA teacher, we're ever going to submit it, and GCA says we'd love a picture of movement, this could be an intimate landscape, Mary. This could be
Uh-huh.
couples. There's loads of themes this could be.
Mm-hmm.
If they give you which they will do, they'll say we need it in this format, 50 centimeters wide in perimeter, or 10 inches long, or the different shows do it in different ways. But it's much easier if you've cropped and you've kept the aspect ratio.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a reminder that's not just for Mary, that's for everyone. Just a little reminder. And you can see when I have the padlock on, as the width changes, the height changes. When the padlock is off over here on the right, I'm in the Wild West of aspect ratios, and I can do anything I want, which may look great here, but when I come to print it or do something with it, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot of work afterwards, or you have to go back to your original crop.
Yeah.
But nice job, Mary. Very nice job getting up to those fast shutter speeds. Some of your cameras may actually go even faster. There's some cameras where you can actually take it up to 1/8000. There's a menu option inside your cameras. You have to look up your specific cameras, but there's an option under the shooting menu that's called extended shutter speed. And extended shutter speed, there's some cameras where you can go up to 1/8000, 1/10,000, 1/20,000, like insanely fast. That's for like I showed you last time, like I don't know, someone's photographing a bullet going through an apple, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to freeze the bullet and freeze the apple like exploding. You got to go really fast. But look how good this one is. Whose is this one? This one's great.
I believe that is mine.
Very good, Suzette. Really nice job.
Really nice.
Excellent.
Thank
This
you.
is exactly what I wanted you to do. And it's quite interesting because Suzette was at 1/1000th here. And 1/1000th is far, because it's quite useful to know like how fast a shutter speed you need to do various things. And lots of people just presume something's moving, I have to go all the way up to 4000th. Here, Suzette's got it at 1/1000th. The strawberry looks great. Really nice job. The splash looks perfect. The background is great. This is a very well executed photograph. Now, again, Suzette, if you would have wanted this just a little bit more frozen, you could. I'm going to talk how theory here. I could have gone up to 1/2000.
Yeah.
Now, 1000 to 1/2000 is losing 1F, okay? But would have given me the benefit of having this water a little bit more frozen. So that would have taken my meter from 0 to here, -1. What could I have changed on your camera settings here to get me back to 0? What would have
Would
been
it be best to do it in the aperture?
absolutely, yeah, because you're not taking a picture of a strawberry and then
Right.
another strawberry 5 yards behind it and another strawberry 5 yards behind that. So how many clicks do we need to get us back?
Three,
You got it.
just,
You
yeah.
got it. And that would be, it would be 8, 7.1, 6.3. So your settings here to get a faster shutter speed, but still get the light as you got it perfect would be 2000. That's 1/2000. 6.3 ISO 1000. And you could have gone even further with this, Suzette. You could have really experimented. You could have gone all the way up to like 1/4000, which is
Yeah.
another stop. And that would have been, I got to count it out, 5.6, 4.5. That would have been f4.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Lots of people can't do that because their lens doesn't allow us to do that. But you've got a great, I think most of you have got a 2.8 lens. So there was still a lot of room for you to run here, Suzette, in terms of changing the settings. But what you've done here, excellent, really, really good. And I think you actually sent me a picture of your setup.
Yes, I did. I sent you 2 pictures of my setup. I don't
Here's one.
necessarily see them, but
Is that yours?
no.
No,
No,
sorry.
it was more a picture of the table and the camera and the stuff I had on it. Yeah,
Hold
they're
on.
not here. My setup's not in that
Hold on.
group.
I actually want to see because I want to show everyone how you did it. Just give me a sec. Sometimes things get.
And I showed you one where I had a reflector on the bottom,
I
and
remember.
then the next one showed no reflector on the bottom because I found because my container was clear on the bottom, the reflector was casting a shadow on the pictures.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
that reflector did not help the situation. Yes, that is
Okay, so hold on, let me make
part
it.
of my situation. Yes.
Here we go. So here's
Yes.
Suzette's 2 setups. One with the reflector on the bottom, as she explained, and one with the reflector on the left. Now, I like the one with the reflector on the left because Suzette is appreciating where the light is coming from on the right. And I mean, ideally, Suzette, you could have had it a little bit hard because you've got a chair. Maybe you could have propped it, could have been a little bit almost in line with the table. A little bit higher, the reflector, I think, would have given you a little bit more light. By that, I just mean rather than have it here, have it kind of here, because here, if the light's coming, boom, it's bouncing and it's getting blocked by the table.
Okay.
But you can see Suzette's setup here is relatively simple.
There was a garbage can behind that.
Amazing. Great. We don't like lots of people think in order to take a picture like that, you need a really intricate professional photo studio setup with 5 different types of lighting. And if we have a sunny day, Joanne, hopefully you get a sunny day soon. You can practice this again. If we have a sunny day, we can very easily get to the spot. And I'll reshare the screen so we can have a look at the rest of Joanne. The rest of Suzette.
And I think for everybody's benefit, that was not a particularly sunny day, but you know, that it was kind of waxing and waning a little bit. And I just, you know, kept changing the settings to see what would happen next. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Look at the difference. Look at the difference between the one on the left and the one on the right. Now, the one on the left, the sun was out more. I can tell you straight away because you can see there's more
The
light.
light, yeah. Mhm.
See the light in the water and the light. So it just happened. And this is showing you that it's much easier to do this on a sunny day, or if you have a flash, or if you remember, I told you can use a flashlight as well. A lot of people just shine a flashlight into the container. But let's look at Suzette's shutter speeds for this one in comparison. So look at the oops, let's go back. Sorry, let's go back and let's compare these 2. Look at the difference. The one, not only was there more light, but look at the difference in how the water is frozen and the strawberry is frozen. One on the left is 1/640. Remember, that's still a fast shutter speed. I said at the beginning of today's class, anything over 1/500 is considered a really quick shutter speed, but it's not quick enough here. And the 1/1000 is getting much closer to the sweet spot And again, like this depends like how quickly did Suzette drop the short strawberry? If she just dropped it like this, or did she, if she chucked it in and threw it down into the water, then you're going to need a much bigger a much faster shutter speed. But this, seeing these together is a really good example to hopefully show you. And I kind of want to switch them. It's not going to let me switch them around. Let me just do them this way. Seeing them together, you can see the advantage that the faster shutter speed provided. Everyone can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Really nice job, Suzette.
Thank you.
Let's look at
And I don't know if you want to look at my third one, but my third one is the lemon.
Oh yeah, good. Okay, let's put them all together. Okay. Really nice as well. See, this one's interesting. Generally, the bigger the thing you drop in the water, the bigger the splash is going to be, right? So in order to, so the lemon weighs a lot more than the strawberry. So when you drop the lemon in, the splash that's going to be created is going to not only be bigger, but it's going to be quicker. It's going to splash out faster, if you think about it, because you're putting more weight down into the water. So in this situation, you can see you're really close. I would have liked you to push that shutter speed a little bit quicker here, especially because you could have dropped your F number. Remember how I taught you how to manually focus on the container?
Yes.
Because the lemon and the water are like, they're not miles apart. They're within the relative same, what I would call plane of focus. They're the same distance away from the camera. You could easily get away with taking this picture at f4, which now I'm going to talk camera speak on you, is plus 1 3/4 more of a stop, which means you have 3 + 2, 5 clicks more on shutter speed that you can go if you needed to, while still getting a correctly exposed picture. But really nice is that. Again, kind of like Nancy's. What's really fun about dropping in the fruit is all the reflections that you see in the water. Not only seeing the fruit, but seeing the yellows and the reds and the different. That's why people drop in kiwis. People drop, and I remember I told you sometimes people color the water. People get really creative with this, and they'll color the water blue, and then they'll drop in a lemon to give a complementary, or they'll just put a blue background here instead of a black background. They'll find a. Remember I told you about my trick? I just put a pair of jeans behind it, just to help provide different complementary colors. But very good, Suzette. Excellent. Really nice job. Let's look at this one. So this was someone who was photographing inside. Okay. Much harder because it's darker. So again, good setup in terms of here being on a tripod. I don't think this is anyone who's here today. I think this is someone who's here on the recording. So I'll just speak to them for a second. But one tricky thing about when you're shooting into a sink or something like this is you're generally shooting down on the thing rather than shooting through those like glass vases or glass bowls or glass containers. That's not to say you can't get an interesting picture, because you definitely can. Look at this. That's just fast shutter speed of the bubbles being created when that duck was dropped in the sink. Now the white balance is off. We won't worry about that too much. That's just because they're in a bathroom. It would be much better if it was a bit more like this. I can kind of recreate it. But the key to look at is look at, even at 1/1000, how frozen the bubbles are. This is really good. Well done, whoever took this, because last week when we looked at all the fast shutter speed pictures, there were very few of you. I think Nancy had one with the bubbles, I remember, taken like on a part, but there was very few of us who were really being able to capture this fast movement. And this is great. Really, really good. Again, I think there's more room to run here. I think you could have pushed your shutter speed even quicker. Could have gone to 2000 because you got room on the F number. The F number could have got bigger here. Maybe not. Maybe because they were all the way zoomed in, their F number may have been restricted, but I think they could have gone a little bit lower. Look at it compared to this one. So this is that rubber duck being dropped in. And this is hard because you're shooting down on it. And because you're shooting down on it, A, the water is in the way of the duck, which is okay because it creates something abstract. But more importantly, because you're shooting like, rather than shooting, if this is my camera and this is like Suzette's vase with the strawberry, everything is like 4 meters away. I'm just making something up, or 2 meters away. Everything's the same distance. if we shoot down on a sink, the things that we're photographing has more depth. You have the bottom of the sink, you have the duck, you have the splash. There's a need for a larger focus, a larger depth of field. So it's much harder to do this, much harder than to photograph across. Does that make sense to everyone as I explain it?
Mhm.
So you can see when this was taken at 7.1, and even at 7.1, whoever took this, well done. The duck is, it's a bit grainy, so don't worry about that. But the duck, I can in fact fix that. Hold on. The duck is in focus. That like orange beak of the duck is sharp, but the water is totally blurry. It's not blurry because the shutter speed was wrong. It's blurry because the F number wasn't high enough.
Mhm.
And that would have been almost impossible to get. Because if your F number would have gone up to F11, F13, F14, where it needed to get to, we can't slow down the shutter speed because that's a non-negotiable here because we won't get the water frozen. So the only option would be to increase the ISO. And then you're going to get a really noisy picture.
Mm.
Now, if you put a gun to my head and you said you have to take this picture, that is what I would do. And I'd be thinking in my head, even if I push the ISO, I can fix that in Lightroom afterwards. What I can't do is I can't suddenly make a blurry bit of water look really sharp. I can't change how the movement looks. I also can't really bring back depth. If it's blurry, it's blurry. I can't make it sharp,
Mhm.
but I can fix the noise. So usually if we really are in a pinch and we're like, we don't know which one to change, or I don't think I can change my shutter speed and my aperture, I would always change the ISO. I would try and cap that on all of your cameras. I don't know which camera, I can't remember off the top of my head which camera everyone's got. But regardless of your camera, I would try and cap that at 5,000. And 5,000 is an absolute like limit. If you look at it in Lightroom afterwards, it's going to look a bit of a disaster. It's going to be full of dots. But remember, it's not going to let me do it here. But we have this enhance button. If I right click and do enhance, and there's a new AI feature in Lightroom called noise reduction, which takes all of the noisy pixels out and it brings in new pixels that don't have any noise, which is really cool. It's called the denoise button. You actually also have it's here. I just can't use it because it's a JPEG that got sent to me. Where's my pen? But if you come over here, you can see it's grayed out. But if this was a raw picture, you'd be able to click on that button that says denoise, right hand side. You can see it in there. It's grayed out. So and I'm like, I don't do it much anymore. But when I used to be a sports photographer, for example, or I could be a wildlife photographer, my non-negotiable is I have to have a fast shutter speed. Otherwise, the eagle I'm photographing is not going to be sharp. The hummingbird I want to get is not going to be sharp. That's what ISO is there for on the camera. It's there to, I always say to people, it's like having a light dimmer switch inside your camera that you can turn up or you can turn down. And to Suzette's point, like Suzette, you asked about this, about film earlier. You mentioned about going out and buying a piece of film. If we knew we were going and trying to photograph this duck being dropped into a sink, we would go and buy a piece of ISO, we'd go and buy a piece of film with a high ISO, but then we'd be limited because you have to get through the whole roll of film before you can change it to something else. The beauty of digital is we can flip straight from taking a picture on ISO 2000 to taking a picture of ISO 100 if we suddenly go from inside to outside. So it's freed us up a lot more than what you can do with a traditional film camera. But nice job, whoever did this. And just watch out. I really like this bubble one. This one's great. Really, really good. Especially if, again, like you start to play around with the coloring a bit. It's hard for me to do here. But very, very good in terms of cap. Also, actually, I'll show you one other thing that's kind of interesting here. Look at how the back bubbles are so blurred. Anyone got any idea why the back bubbles are so blurred and the focus is on that front right bubble?
Was it the depth of field at
Yeah.
6? Yeah.
So the depth of field is shallow because of 6.3. Why else is the depth of field shallow? Think about what we've learned in previous classes, Suzette.
I think it's the distance from the subject.
Excellent. Good. So the person, so we saw, look, the setup is it's really close. In camera terms, that's getting quite close. So reduced distance from subject equals shallower depth of field. That's why the bubbles are blurry. There's one other thing why the bubbles are blurry, why there's a shallow depth of field. Anyone remember the third one? I'll give you a clue. It's in the settings up here. It's one of these. So let's think about what affects depth of field. Distance from subject, aperture, and what's the third one? You know this.
ISO.
Nope.
ISO.
Nope. ISO doesn't do anything to the depth of field. Nothing.
I'm just randomly guessing.
Well, you've only got 3 more left. So we can do it by process of elimination.
Is it the lens?
Yeah, good. It's the lens. So it's the focal length. So this
132, yeah.
yeah. So let's all write this down so we remember it. So increased focal length. Focal length is this millimeters number, is how we measure how much zoom there is. The higher the number, the more the zoom. Increased focal length equals decreased depth of field. That's to say, the more we zoom in on a picture or a subject, so let's just imagine you went out now to your backyard and you took a picture of a flower. The more you zoom in your lens, the more blur will be behind the flower. It's a great trick to, often we want to create a really shallow depth of field and get that bokeh. And an easy way to do that is just take a step back and zoom in. But at the same time, we've also got to appreciate that when we zoom in, that the depth of field gets compressed, it gets skinnier. We've talked about this when we talked about macro. Remember, most of your macro lenses are 85 millimeters, 100 millimeters, 105 millimeters. They're pretty high numbers, which means the depth of field is very, very skinny. So we have to be very careful where we put it. We have to take a lot of care. Whereas if we're photographing with a 24 millimeter wide angle lens and you're at f8, most of it's going to be in focus. In fact, I'll give you a good way to remember this. One of the biggest photography companies in America is a real estate photography company. Like your realtor, if you were selling your house, would hire this company called F8. It's the name of the company. And the reason it's called F8 is they hire like all these photographers, most of whom are like amateurs. They're not professionals, but they're doing it as some type of side hustle. And they say to them, go in every corner of the room, put your camera on a tripod, put it on aperture priority, and put it on f8. Because they know that if someone's photographing a wide angle, which is what they're doing when they want to make your house look big, your kitchen or your living room, at a wide angle, you're getting a large depth of field. But if I stuck your 70 to 200 lens on, or your zoom lens on, and I took that same picture with exactly the same settings of f8, only a tiny bit of the photo will be in focus. You see this a lot on the iPhone. If ever you look at your iPhone settings, because your iPhone takes really wide angle pictures, and it will, and you'll look at it and it will say like f2.8, and you're like, how is that whole landscape in focus when it was at 2.8? Because in my head, I think lower f numbers, shallower depth of fields. And it's because the focal length, those 3 things are, most people, again, only appreciate aperture, the f-stop, as the thing that affects depth of field. When actually it's aperture, it's distance from subject. So by distance from subject, if you want to write it down, it's the closer you are, the smaller the distance from the subject, the less the depth of field, the shallower the depth of field, more blur. The further away you are, the larger the depth of field, less blur. Just let everyone write that down. Okay, and then the third one, which we just mentioned, is focal length, the amount of zoom. The more you zoom in, the shallower depth of field. The less you zoom in, the larger the depth of field, the more you get in focus. Okay, that makes sense to everyone.
Mhm.
Good. And that's why in this case that front bubble is sharp, but all of this is blurry. It's a combination of those three factors. Relatively low F number, close to the subject, large focal length, big zoom. And you can see that big zoom on the persons. If I go back to the setup picture, you can see they're zoomed in. Look, they've zoomed in their camera. That's the focal length. Well done, whoever took this, for going out and buying one of those Gorilla tripods. They're really useful. So glad you're getting good use of that, especially for tabletop photography like this. Okay, let's carry on. We've got a few more to look at. And I didn't put everyone's setups here. So this one, I think, is this person's. I think. No, it's not. That one's on a white background. I can't remember whose this one was. One thing I would say, the bigger, and you probably experienced this, the ideal thing, and most people don't have this, is you need like a fish tank to do this. You need like a big, like the more room you have on the sides, generally the better. It just makes it easier to capture. But all of these, and these ones didn't, I don't know why these ones, whoever exported these, were these yours, Susie?
Yes.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't get your settings.
Oh,
So just make sure when you export them that you keep them, when you come down here,
okay. Yeah.
just as a reminder, just make sure that this says all
Oh,
metadata.
that's interesting.
Okay.
Because if that's not checked, I can't see the numbers.
Okay.
Look how good a job Susie did here. These are fantastic. It's really good. Really, really good. Susie, was this outside or inside?
It was outside.
Yeah, you can see like you can see the extra light there. And look at all these bubbles down here. Beautiful. Really, really, really great capture. Like I'd even attempt
Yeah.
to crop it off a little bit. You can think about rule of 30. You could do it this way. There's loads of ways you could do this. But the key is that you really successfully, Susie, nice job. And I know this was a challenge. It took some time. But you got there, which is great. Look at, I believe these are all yours, Susie. So correct me if I'm wrong. But we don't have the settings here. But like even this one looks like the shutter speed could have been a little bit faster.
Mhm.
I think on this one. I'm just flicking. And even this one's interesting, like the real close up of it. What happens if
My macro lens.
yeah,
Oh. Hmm.
that was
Hmm.
interesting. Look how interesting that looks, especially if we give it a little bit more light. You're creating something really interesting and abstract.
That's
It
fun.
almost doesn't look real.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Really good, Susie. Really nice job. And well done for thinking about, but one thing, Susie, remember when you put your macro lens on, you've got to think about that's going to compress the depth of field.
Mhm.
You may need a slightly higher F number than you would with your other lens. You did it fine here, and this worked really well. I'm actually going to show you, I've got 7 minutes left. I want to show one tool here that I didn't realize I was going to show you all that theory today. I'm going to show you one quick thing. What happens here if we're like, we really like this picture, but we want more. We want to see more. I know some of you have seen this tool before. I'm going to show everyone. If I open this in Photoshop, okay, and tell me if you can see can you see my Photoshop or did it disappear?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not
Maybe.
yet.
Yeah, I may just have to reshare the screen. Hold on. Okay. You should be able to see that strawberry now.
Yes.
Yes.
In
Mhm.
Photoshop. Okay, great. Let's just move this around, make it nice and big. Okay, so usually when you open this in Photoshop, it's going to look like this, and it's going to look a bit blurry because we've got a slightly low res picture, but don't worry. If you zoom out, which you do here, and you use the magnifying glass, and you hold Option on your keyboard, that plus turns to a minus. And I can zoom out and I can get some space around the picture. You can also do this by pinching, kind of how you pinch on your phone. Pinch in or pinch out. I'm just pinching my fingers together. If I then go to C for crop, it's this tool up here, and I drag out from here, and let's say I drag out from here, even let's do a little bit on the top. Straight away, I get this new thing that I never had before. And this you don't have to use for water splash pictures. You can use this for anything, called generative expand. This is going to try and fill in the gaps in the picture as if we included more. This is great for GCA stuff when they're trying to get you to shoot at a certain aspect ratio, like, and Mary's already cropped her picture and she maybe can't go back and she needs to get more room. You can try playing with this. So all you're going to do is this is so easy. You zoom out on the picture, is step number 1. Step number 2 is you hit C, or you go over here and you click on crop. Step number 4 is you drag out from the corners where you want to extend your photograph, extend the canvas. Okay. Then once you've extended it out, you get this bar that comes up underneath. For everyone, you'll all get this. It's automatic. And you're going to click the button that says Generative Expand. And it's going to say, what would you like to generate? You're going to leave this blank because you could type in red strawberry here and it would put in red strawberries, but I don't want to do that. And you're just going to hit generate. You're going to give it a second. And as you're doing this, okay, this has now given what it thinks should go there. And you have 3 different versions. 1, 2, 3. You can pick the one you like. Like I kind of like that one, number 2. And then we can bring it back into Lightroom. And that can be our new base photo. If for some reason you don't like one of those 3, choose the one that you like the most, that's closest to what you want, and then you just hit generate again. And that's you basically teaching Photoshop. I really like this one, but it's not quite there. Can you give me another 3 that are even closer? Now you can see it says 1 of 6. And I can flick through these and I can go 2, let's even add another strawberry, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a very quick and easy tool, but very powerful to be able to extend your photograph. Then all you do is you go up to the top, you go layer, flatten image, because it does it on a new layer. And then you go file, save, or Command S, or Control S if you're on a PC. You save it, come back into Lightroom.
Adam,
Yeah.
the reason for flattening is just to not have so much space used in Lightroom.
Yeah. Lightroom just doesn't like it when there's multiple layers. It just helps Lightroom. You should always flatten an image before you bring it back into Photoshop.
But if you flatten it, you can't bring it back into Photoshop and rework it again, right?
Yeah. So there's a few times, a few situations where you would keep it as what's called the PSD file, which is with multiple layers, but most Lightroom is not designed to work with a photo that has multiple layers. It gets really confused. It doesn't like it. So general good etiquette is to flatten the image first and then save it back into Lightroom. Good question, Susie. Really good question. So look, we've got this same picture now. Look, that's the same picture, but we've just expanded it. The one on the left is our new one. So now if we wanted to, we could go to our one on a new one and we're like, oh yeah, I just want to crop out all that negative space at the bottom, maybe put the strawberry, and you've got something really interesting. Again, that was the original. I've just given it more space. That tool is called the Generative Expand tool. Okay. Let's look at you can go back and watch the recording of that. I went through that pretty fast, just in the constraints of time. But it's really easy. I think you all can follow along and do that. You're all skilled enough and competent in Lightroom and Photoshop. It's not a 10-stage step technique. It's pretty easy. Let's look at this one. This one's really interesting. Now, the shutter speed's not fast enough to totally freeze it,
Exactly.
but it's quite nice. This one's different. It's showing motion. Look at the strawberry. Like you can see, you can almost feel it dropping in. We're not limited to just having to freeze movement. We can show movement as well. Okay. This yours, Joanne.
Yes.
Yeah, really nice.
First attempt at indoors.
Yeah, indoors is indoor, but you've done a good job, really good job. Now, were you near a window when you did this?
Yes, but I had a white board on the left side and I was using a light source a handheld light source
Yeah.
from the right.
Yeah, really nice. So the light source on the right was being bounced back into the water from the board on the left. So if we just draw out a quick diagram here, it would look like the light source would be coming from here and bouncing back off a board. So we're keeping it all in here. Really good, Joanne. Really good. It's very hard to do this inside. Really hard. Really, really hard. But I
Well,
think
and you definitely need two people. I mean, I had a helper dropping.
unless you've got a remote, it's very hard to do without. Well, that's why I told you all to manually focus, because if you manually focus, you've just got to take the picture and time it right.
Yeah.
But it definitely helps having two people correct.
I think I didn't have high enough ISO.
Yeah, I agree. I think your ISO should have been higher, which would have let you come up to a faster shutter speed.
Yeah.
Then worst case scenario, you could have used the denoise button in Lightroom if you needed it. If it was really noisy, the picture.
Okay. Thank you.
But generally, like look at that, you can really see the movement. You can feel it in these pictures of Joanne, which again is kind of going to dovetail into what I'm about to give you as a theme. But generally, everyone did a very, very good job in like if we just get like a selection of everyone's pictures up, let's just look at like a selection of everyone's. Like, look how compared to what you were doing like the week before, look at these. They're great. Like you guys you're pretty much there. So here's what I want to do. So I want to use the theory that we've acquired today. Okay, and I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to, rather than fast shutter speeds, I'm simply going to give you the theme of slow shutter speeds. I don't want to tell you what to photograph. You can photograph whatever you want. But I want you to think about when you go to slow shutter speeds, the camera is going to tell you it's too bright, especially when you're on manual. I want you to play around and really experiment with if the camera's telling me it's 2 stops too bright and I'm at a 2-second, 3-second exposure because I want to show some water moving or I want to blur a car going past me or I want to go out at night and show some lights going past. There's tons of things you can do. And I'm purposely keeping this vague because I just want you guys to go and experiment. But the main reason I'm giving you this theme is I want you to think about if it's 2 stops too bright, how many clicks is that? 6 clicks. 2 stops. Where am I going to get those 6 clicks from? How am I going to change my aperture? How am I going to change my ISO? I want you to get you into that mindset. Okay? But really good class today. Well done, everyone, for staying with me. That was heavy, heavy, heavy theory. Probably the most theoretical I'll ever get on you guys. So go back if you want to, watch the recording, make sure you really understand it. And I will see you in
April 2nd.
April 2nd. Yeah, perfect. So a week and a half. Well, sorry, no, yeah, a week and a half. Anyone got any questions? Good. Well, I hope you enjoyed today. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll
Really
see you soon. Thanks. Look out for the recording. Bye.